Hi there, and welcome to Faith in 5, where we believe you can build your faith in just 5 minutes. I'm your host, Reggie Wilson, and I'm back with another exciting episode. Today, we're going to be in Exodus 14, starting in verse 21. And we're going to be in Exodus 14, starting in verse 21. Now, this is a story. We all heard of it. How many of you heard of Moses? Pretty much everybody's heard of Moses, right? Well, this is Moses right now, where God called to lead the people of Israel out of Egypt. So this is right around the time when he's leading the people out. Pharaoh says, okay, I'm going to let your people go. After all the turmoil and all the chaos that God put Pharaoh in, he finally let the people go. So now they're heading out and they're leaving Egypt, finally. So as they're leaving Egypt, guess what? God hardens Pharaoh's heart. And as Pharaoh's heart's hardened, he decides, you know what? Why are we letting our slaves go and these people that serve us go? Let's go after them. So they decide to go after the people. As they decide to go after the people, God provides angels in front and in back of the people. So a cloud separated God's people from the people of Egypt, protecting them. But right around this time, they get right to the edge of the sea. They're at the Red Sea. And at this time, the people are looking. They see these big, huge group of armies approaching them, a vast army. And they're looking at it. So they're looking at Moses for leadership. And they look at Moses and say, Moses, why have you brought us out here? It was better if we stayed in Egypt. We could have died there. We could have served there. We could have stayed in our servitude. We could have stayed in our slavery while we were in Egypt. Why bring us right here to the edge of the sea to die? And they were just complaining. And Moses knows exactly what to do. When all else fails, and remember, everybody in this situation, all they can see is just this Red Sea. There's nowhere to turn. There's nowhere to hide. The people of Egypt, the armies are behind them with their king Pharaoh, and they're ready to take them back. Take them back into bondage, back into slavery. And all they can look at is just the army behind them and the Red Sea in front of them. So what does Moses do? When all else fails and there was nowhere to turn, he turned to God. And this is what he says in Exodus 14, starting in verse 21. It says, then Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and all the night the Lord drove the sea back with a strong east wind and turned it into dry land. The waters were divided, and the Israelites went through the sea on dry ground with a wall of water on their right and on their left. So God, he calls on them. He cries out to God about the situation. And it said there was, as he called out, God sent the wind to take the sea up, take that water, that body of water, pulled it up to the right and to the left, where they can go through that sea, right where they couldn't see a way out. Right there when they saw nothing but the sea, God opened it up and turned it into dry land so they can walk through. And as they went through safely, he closed it back down over Pharaoh of Egypt and his soldiers. You know, I always look at that as an amazing story. And you know what stands out to me? When Moses was under so much pressure from the people, so much pressure. He didn't know what to do. He told them to be firm in the Lord, to be confident, and they didn't. And all he hears is complaining. He sees this army behind him, and he sees the sea in front of him. But he was able to look in the right direction. He didn't look back. He didn't look to the front. He looked up. He went to God. And he provided a solution where there was no solution. You see, it wasn't realistic. He had to go through the sea. And as he took those steps to go through the sea, the waters parted to the left and to the right, and they made it to their destination safely because of faith. Now, when we think about the story, there's something I want you to think about. You see, something had happened when all else fails, and you figure there's no way out, there's nothing you can do, and the situation looked drastic. Where do you look? Do you look to the right or to the left, or do you look to God? So let's make sure we reinforce our faith. And let's remember where we look when we think our life or our problems are bigger than God. Don't look to the right or to the left or to the problem. Let's look to God. Thank you for joining me today. Thank you for joining me again, right, for Faith in 5. If you like what you heard, please like and subscribe, and see you next time on Faith in 5.